Peace and blessings, family and friends, naysayers, whomever. My name is Leon Wheeler Jr., and this is Master Making in Motion. In today's brief talk, part 5, it's all about the babies. When I think about the scenario that we're about to address, it comes to mind that I probably could have named this particular series The Sins of the Father Visit Their Children, generations and generations to come. And I said that because my channel, for the most part, is primarily geared towards communicating with men, young men, older men. It's primarily set for us to explore taking advantage of our duties, our responsibilities, striving to be better human beings, better fathers, uncles, friends, whomever, mentors. So my channel is primarily, not exclusively, to men. However, I do believe that the females should definitely pay attention because you need to know how to deal with us. And we need to express our concerns while dealing with you. So I said primarily, not entirely. So when I think about the scenario that I'm going to talk about today, it's dealing with children growing up despising their parents. Now, this is a reality that, in my opinion, we face. And it's worthy of taking in consideration because a child with animosity towards his parents is definitely an issue. And it can definitely stifle the growth of the child, his abilities to coexist in society with his mate, if he's fortunate, or if that's a choice, part of his life, just in just overall life. So if you're despising your parents, it definitely has a direct link to how you exist, how you coexist with other individuals in the world. So again, this is a very, 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 very serious subject matter, in my opinion. And another thing that comes to my mind is when we think about the lives of my people, black people, I'm a people person, humanity for the most part. But again, as I primarily for men, primarily African American men. But the lesson is universal, and anyone is able to use it if it can apply to them. If they can utilize it, I suggest that you do. And we are all connected. So I mean, even though I'm primarily talking to my people because those are the people that I deal with and see every day in my community, and we are the ones that's unfortunately been given the worst shake at the deal. We've been given the worst, bar none. We've been shortchanged across the whole game, the gamut. We've been cheated, without a doubt. So, brothers, when I look at us, black people in the whole, I say that our life is, it's really a tough teacher, especially for us. It gives the test first and the lesson second. So I said something about the sins of the father visiting his children. And I'm primarily speaking again to the boys. And the concept of being despising your father or your mother. But primarily we're talking to the men. So I think that, well, let me use my personal experiences when I deal with this. And that's the way that in the future that I plan on trying to address everything, because I have a personal experience and I've had the opportunity to live my life and do a lot of retrospection. I was able to go back and I guess look at my life in totality. I was able to inspect it and look at it, break it down, dissect it. So I understand a lot about my own personal trials and tribulations, about my upbringing, about my life, because I've had the time to really put it under the microscope, and I've done that. So a lot of times, most of the time, what I would like to do is deal with the subject matters that I share with you all, basing them off my personal experience and introspection. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about my upbringing, or upbringings that I'm accustomed to, that I know because I've experienced them and I've been in the households of individuals. So for the most part, most of our households are governed, for the most part. I come from a two-parent household, mother and father. However, I realized that for the most part, my mother was running the show. And I think that's true of most of the families that, if not all, the families in my neighborhood, for the most part. Maybe one or two, the father was more of a dominant figure, but for the most part, the houses that I frequent in my community were pretty predominantly ran by the woman. Now, being such a boss as she has been, and now I'm gonna say this before I go any further. Most of the women I'm talking about, when I'm talking, I'm really speaking about the parents of the old. I'm not talking about what's going on today, because it's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother world. So I'm talking about the parents of the old. Primarily, my parents. I grew up in the '70s when I was a tot, and so I'm speaking from that generation, paying attention from that generation, because this is how our personalities and our viewpoints and everything are forged at a young age. So I'm giving you mine. So as a youngster, I noticed that most females ran the households. I come from, like I said, a two-family household, father and mother. But my mother ran the shots. She ran everything. My father's, I guess, his fathering, parenting position, his duties entail, for the most part, being a provider. My father worked diligently his job. He came home from a hard day's work. This is my perception. And there was a couple of things that he wanted for the most part. And one, he wanted to come home and take a bath and eat and possibly relax for a little while. So it wasn't a whole lot of interaction between me and my father. My mother, she taught me everything for the most part. She groomed me. And if my father came home and he did have to deal with me, it was basically because my mother gave him some chores to do, more or less. And that was to probably discipline me for something that I've done around the house or maybe at school, because I was a bad kid. And I was a bad kid probably primarily because I didn't feel I was getting the attention that I wanted. And today I can say without a doubt primarily from my father. And I realized this at a later age. At the age of 60, I started reflecting like, man. And so I believe that some animosity, some resentment eventually grew from that. And I believe it's probably a perpetuating situation because, again, they say the sins of the father visit his children. And it goes on basically to say usually generation after generation. And I believe that's a fact. I believe that my father suffered from the same thing. The only difference is a lot of the men in the past, I don't think were as boisterous, able to express themselves as I'm doing today. And the kids today are coming up are way more boisterous than I was, than I am. But the knowledge that we all possessed today and yesterday, I think has always been there. I think that a child knows what he knows. He has his own intellect, his own his understanding, his inclination, his viewpoints, his feelings, his emotions. Even though they're governed and laid down the foundation from the parents, he has those. So anyway, I come home. My father come home, and he does what he does, and he may have to discipline me because my mother gave him the job to do so. We didn't spend a lot of time with me, and that's what I saw pretty much primarily through all the families in my neighborhood. Same thing, same exact thing. And I think it was a pattern. I think the pattern is something that was, I'm sure it's a pattern that was created by the oppressors in their programming to us, in the way that we were taught as a property to view relationships, that Willie Lynch stuff, and you create a pattern, and after a while, the pattern perpetuates itself. You know what I'm saying? That the slave automatically do what he was taught to do without the slave owner supervising him or paying attention to what he do. It's called psychological slavery. It's some psychological stuff. It's mentally ingrained in your psyche, so you just automatically do what you've been programmed to do. And that's the problem that we have. That's the problem we have. So my father didn't spend a lot of time. I can't even recall the time that I had a scenario where when I started exploring with sex. Can't think of a time that my father ever talked to me about relationships. I said that the last time I was on here. Never talked to me about it. So I found myself exploring with sex and felt a sensation, a burning sensation. I brought it to my mother. Hey, mother, I'm not feeling too well. Something's going on. I felt a little, awkward talking to her about that. But I mean, she was the person I felt more comfortable with because she was the one that was always there. She was the nurturer, the one that would talk to me. So I said, hey, I'm from, and she took me to the clinic, Herman Kiefer's, and that was that. So I'm only saying that to say that most, if not all, of the teachings that I was exposed to came from my mother. I paid attention to my father from afar and picked up lessons, but it was never no really hands-on. And I'm sure that perpetuated to a great degree with my children. I know it did for the fact that I went to prison, so that separated, and then I tried my best to at least teach them what I was learning as I was going. But the pattern is a pattern that resurface over and over and over again because of the mindset, because how we've been programmed to deal with family. And to me, that's now I look at that as a degree of a weakness in the man, and most of us, we were weak fathers because of the way we were groomed from our oppressors, the way we were brainwashed. And it's time out for that. It's time for us to step up and become more accountable. As you get older, you are responsible for your actions, no doubt. You have to be responsible for what you do. And that's a fact. However, if you've been taught a certain way by your parents, a lot of that has been, been solidified, it's been cemented in your makeup. So it's not that easy to break. It's not that easy to change the way you've been programmed to or domesticated to think. Your character is built, your viewpoints, your understanding is all been taught by, for the most part, your parents. And that's not something easy to break. But again, I went through what I went through, and being who I am, I was, put in the position that I was able to look at all of this and challenge it. That's why I wrote these books. I wrote Code and Ethics for Up and Coming Players, because this is my way of giving back. This is my way of being a positive influence on the brothers and possibly inciting us to take charge and go to work. So I think what had happened for many of us is we picked up a lot of weak ways of teaching or not teaching our children. and our sons and our daughters, they see this and they take offense to that. I mean, the despising a parent, it could be because you didn't do something, because of their lack of not doing anything. It's not necessarily because you was abusive. You may not have disciplined us, or you may have not spent time with us, proper time, the time that we felt that we needed. You know, and everybody wants to be want some attention. All children want some attention, and they want some attention by the parents, and it's a proper attention, it's appropriate attention. And for myself, I know for a fact I was not given that, and I, in turn, I'm sure, developed some dislike, or I despised that, and it made me mad. And when you become mad, you do goofball things. So I reacted in a way that was not productive, and it was destructive. And the cycle perpetuates itself. So I just wanted to say that I want us to take in consideration that our children do despise us when we're not doing our job. And that creates a problem. That creates a problem for them down the line with their relationships with their children, with societal relationships. It's just real. And I'm sure on some level, even though the men of the old, my father would have never said, I've never heard him say what I say. I've never heard him say that he may have had some resentment or some reservations about something that took place with his father, because that's just not, I mean, the programming was that you just didn't do it. But that doesn't mean that that's the right thing. I believe in attacking or addressing situations because you can't fix something that you don't acknowledge that exists. So and that's why I say today we're talking about our children growing up to despise us. And that's the issue. I want to read a little like something because I'm going through a little situation here in my location, and it's uncomfortable. So, but I wanted to make sure I say something to you all, and I wanted to talk about the babies. I wanted to drop something, and I wanted to share with us the possibility of us parents creating this resentment that we're creating, and we have to do something about it. We have to change it. We have to do it. I'm going to read out something I got on Google. It's about it's titled "Weak Fathers," and it's just to highlight some of the things that they say. And if it fits you, take it in consideration and do what's necessary to change it. That's what we got. That's what we're here for. We're here to change unwanted or unwarranted behavior, because our children is our future. And I am optimistic without a doubt. I'm a realist, and I really believe that our children are gonna be all right. I know I come across sometimes that some of the things I say seems to be harsh or insensitive, but that's not my intention. I know we're not soft people, so I can't talk to you soft because I didn't get it that way. I'm gonna give it to you the way I got it, the way I believe it's supposed to be given to us. I mean, we got other people that can deal with your emotions and your sensitivity, and we got other brothers that deal with that, and thank God for them, or Buddha, Muhammad, whoever. Thank for that. But I'm saying this is the way I'm coming across, because this is what I am. This is how I'm motivated. This is what's motivating me to share with you. So they say weak father figures can negatively impact the child's development, potentially leading to difficulties in emotional regulations, relationship building, and self-esteem. This can manifest as feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and a lack of confidence, without a doubt. Children may also struggle to learn appropriate boundaries and develop a strong sense of self. Here is a more detailed look at the potential impact. It said emotional and psychological effects. Insecurity and anxiety. Children may internalize feelings of inadequacy or fear if they perceive their fathers as weak or unable to provide guidance and protection. This is something that we must take this into consideration. If your sons or daughters are looking at you and they see you as weak in that regard, is possibly not providing the proper guidance and protection, that's going to rub them the wrong way. And they realize that. They can see this. So if that's something that you may be struggling with, let's work with it. You're welcome at any time to hit me, inbox me, or in the comments, and I'll check them in. And we could deal with this if need be. Low self-esteem. A weak father figure can contribute to a child's feeling of being not good enough. Now, I think that that's something that I was struggling with. People could never notice that because I was so abrasive. I was so, I guess, troublesome. I caused so much trouble that you never knew that. But I suffer from that on some level, no doubt, leading to diminishing self-esteem. We'll read it again. A weak father's figure can contribute to a child's feeling of being not good enough. It's not what we want for our children. I don't care if you repeat to them, hey, you're great, and you can do that every now and then. We tell our children that. But if our action does not display that, and we're not disciplining or being a good example, they're reading what we do, not what we say. Difficulties with relationships. Children may struggle to form healthy, trusting relationships if they haven't experienced a strong, emotional, available father figure. Let me read that again. Children may struggle to form healthy, trusting relationships if they haven't experienced a strong, emotional, available father figure. Look at that. See if it applies. If it do away with it. Let's say behavior effects, difficulty and boundaries. Children may struggle to establish healthy boundaries in their relationships if they haven't learned appropriate boundaries from their fathers. Fathers, this is our job. We can't wait on the mothers, the women, to do this. It's not the women are best suited to teach the daughters. They on the same pole. They on the same line, the same frequency. That's their job. Men are supposed to teach the boys. Men are supposed to teach the boys. That's not how it's been traditionally. I come from a two-family household, and the most influence that it came from my mother. And I seen that on my whole block. I saw that because the man came home and his job was over. He wanted to eat and sleep and possibly have sex with his woman or whatever, and he was done. And he started over the next day. Passive and submissive behavior. In some cases, children may adopt passive or submissive behavior if they perceive their father as weak or lacking in leadership. Social isolation. Children may struggle to connect with peers and form social bonds if they lack a strong male role. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Dropping games so we can do what's necessary, so we can turn the ship around, so we can become better role models for our children, for our sons and daughters. What is considered a weak father? Emotional unavailability. A father who is emotionally unavailable or unwilling to show vulnerability or affection can negatively impact a child's development. A father who is emotionally unavailable or unwilling to show vulnerability or affection can negatively impact a child's development. Lack of leadership. A father who is indecisive or unwilling to take the lead can create uncertainties and instability for a child. Passive aggressive. A father who is frequently sarcastic or passive aggressive can create a hostile environment for a child. I'm guilty. I'm sure I've done this. I'm sure I have. Failure to provide role modeling. A father who fails to demonstrate appropriate behavior or values can hinder a child's development. Well, when you're talking about the term weak, it's a relative term. So, I mean, it can mean one thing over here and one thing over there. So the main thing I want us to do again is just take into consideration that if we're not doing what's necessary to spend the appropriate time with our children, being the appropriate role models, it's going to perpetuate. It's time for us to change right now. It's time for us to do what's necessary right now as fathers. So, young brother, who's about to become a father, who's a father now, realize that you are responsible, that you have been given a blessing that's in your hands, and you have a duty to fulfill. You want to teach your seed to be the best example that he can be. And the best teaching is by your example. It's by your example. So I ask that you take in consideration today's talk. And if you know anybody that can possibly utilize what was said today, I ask that you share it. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, because this is the way the channel grows. Again, I didn't plan on staying on here this long, but it's a sensitive subject matter, and I know I probably looped a few times, but it's necessary. It's necessary for us to talk about subject matters that's really sensitive, that's really sincerely necessary, but we don't normally talk about because we don't want to rock no boats. We don't want to offend nobody. I'm talking about the stuff that's, to me, is real. And I'm not coming from a sucker's approach. I'm coming from an individual who likes it raw, who give it raw, who wants it raw. I'm just a realist. I'm not one-sided one way or another. I'm just striving to be the best I can be and to encourage you to do the same. So again, I ask that you share this with somebody. If you find somebody, think of somebody who can use it, I'm sure you know somebody. We all need some encouragement. And I ask that you like and subscribe to the channel so we can get it to grow. I hope you was able to hear something that was motivational to you. And if not, just let it fly. It wasn't for you. As always, I'm always encourage you to be the best that you can be. I say simply, be.